Drive with Bill Cameron on ESPN 1067 and online at ESPNAU.com.
Young lady who has, become a very popular person. I mean, I think most Auburn football fans will know exactly who I'm talking about when I say we're welcoming in Brittany Wagner, who joins us from, I would assume, from Scuba, Mississippi, where she
Hi.
is. Hey, Brittany, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing just fine. Bill here, along with Zach, and I think all Auburn football fans watched Last Chance U because they wanted to get an inside look at John Franklin III. But I will say, I thought what a very insightful look inside junior college athletics Last Chance U was, and it's I'm sure pleasing to you, but it's exciting to know that it's going to be back for a season number 2.
Yeah, we're excited. The response to season 1 has been phenomenal. I think exceeded our expectations, and it's just overwhelming, and so grateful for that. So really excited to start filming season 2.
When is that going to get started?
We will start full filming on Monday.
Wow. So it is here. We've been
It
talking
is
about
here.
waiting for football season to get started. High school football is getting started. As a matter of fact, tomorrow here locally, and we're a couple of weeks away from everybody and in the SEC jumping into action. So yeah, it's great that it's going to be here. Well, before we talk about any specifics and some of the primaries from this past year, including of course John, wanted to get just some thoughts on your journey to Scuba.
My journey to Scuba. I'm a Mississippi girl. I was born and raised in Mississippi, lived there my whole life, went to Mississippi State, have 2 degrees from there. My undergrad is in sports communication and my master's in sport administration.
Mm-hmm.
Had no clue what I wanted to do. I think essentially when I first started in my major of sports communication, I wanted to be on ESPN.
Sure.
And be a sideline reporter. And then started my master's degree, and I needed to get my school paid for. So my whole undergrad, I had volunteered in the athletic department and just worked in pretty much every area of athletics that they would let me. And then when I needed a graduate assistantship, they had 1 graduate assistantship left, and it was in the athletic academic office. I took it, not knowing what in the world that even was. And I started working there as a graduate assistant, and I fell in love immediately with that profession. And that was it. So I left Mississippi State for a while, worked at Jacksonville State in Alabama for a little bit, and then was hired full time. Came back to Mississippi State, and I was there for 4 years as an academic counselor during the Coach Croom era. And then East Mississippi Community College hired me away, and I've been here. I'm going into my 8th football season.
Wow, and you have you really have handled a large task. I mean, folks around here, if they know the folks in the athletic department here or in SEC schools, they think of large staffs of athletic support personnel and academic personnel and counselors and as far as guidance, but academics and so much more. You do so much of that yourself, and your passion really, I thought, came out in the documentary.
Yeah, I think, at that level in the SEC, obviously you have multi-million-dollar buildings, and you have staffs of, at least 20 probably people, if not 40 to 50 people that are working with your athletes. I mean, there are some staffs in the SEC that have 5 or 6 people just working with football alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think a lot of sometimes we kind of overanalyze the resources that we need to get a job done. And, when I came here, I walked away from an SEC program where we had the same type of setup, and came in here, and I had a computer and a phone in my office, and it was kind of just, that was it. And I learned very quickly that I can pretty much get the same exact stuff we got done at Mississippi State. I can pretty much get it done here with little to no resources. I think it's just about managing your time, your social skills, your communication skills, the relationships that you build, And I can do a lot of things with the pen and paper that, other schools are using $1 million software programs to do.
I love that attitude. The next time I see, well, I don't know if I'll tell Jay that, but next time I see Scott, Scott Strickland, longtime friend, I'll ask him, and so what are you spending all that money on now, Scott? No, but I'll tell you what I am so impressed with you because folks that watch Last Chance U may think that you're only dealing with football, but you deal with all the athletes there at EMCC, right?
I do. We have 6 sports here, about 200 athletes, and I work with all of them, which you only saw me working with football. Mm-hmm. Obviously, football maximizes my time just because of the sheer numbers, and it is arguably the most successful program on our campus, so probably more Division I players come out of that program, so it does occupy a little bit more of my time. But we also have a very successful basketball program. I mean, our basketball team has played in the national tournament, I believe, 5 times. We made it to the Elite 8 once. Last year, we graduated 4 sophomores, and all 4 went Division I. So our basketball program is right there with our football program, and also have women's basketball, softball, baseball, and then a rodeo team. So wow. I'm pretty busy.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's hard to imagine that there's ever a time that your office isn't occupied by more than just you. I mean, the relationship that we saw with the players coming in and hanging out with you and how much they rely on you. There's no question you're big sister, mom. I mean, you're so much to those young men, and you are, I would assume, I guess you're, if not scheduling, helping them schedule, and then you're counseling them and keeping up with what's going on with so many of them on an everyday basis.
Right, especially with football. And, not all of our athletes and not all of our football players need me to that extent, obviously. But I think, there's that group of athletes that, they do need that hands-on, everyday attention and help. And, there's some that I barely have to talk to at all because they handle their business and they don't need me. I would say that John Franklin was one of those. Now, he was in my office a lot, but John Franklin would have made it out of here academically with or without me sitting behind his desk. So there are a lot of students that they may hang out in here. They may come by and ask me a question every now and then, but on a daily basis, they don't rely on me the way that you saw in the documentary.
Well, you get players from all over the place that are there for different reasons. Some, in John's case, he's going there trying to, be able to move back to the Division I SEC, Power 5 type level. Other players needing to go there because of academics and really needing that even more. But, what a lot of folks that aren't really familiar with the junior college football situation is, the power. I mean, Mississippi is the power junior college football. There is no junior college football in the state of Alabama or in Florida. There's just a couple of military schools in Georgia. I mean, so the athletes from the Southeast are going to Mississippi and some from all over the country going there. So you're dealing with kids with so many and such diverse backgrounds.
Right. I mean, they're from all over the place, and they've all come from different experiences, different backgrounds. They all have a different reason for being here, and so I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so open with allowing them to be who they are in my office and just accepting them for who they are, accepting them at the level in which they come in, and then trying to better them from that level. So, because we all are different, and they all do come from different situations, and they all have different dreams and goals and things that we need to work on. And so you can't blanket them, all under the same, or categorize them all under the same blanket and say, okay, we're all gonna do this, because they don't all learn the same way, they don't all function the same way. So you feel like in this position and in this job, no matter where you are, you have to get to know them individually and treat them as individuals, because they're just all so different.
Talking with Brittney Wagner from East Mississippi Community College. What is your exact title now? I mean, I know it's sort of morphed into what you're doing now.
My title doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's to be honest.
I work at university as well. I understand titles. So.
And the more that I say it, the more I'm like, this really doesn't make sense.
Does
It's
it look good on
athletic.
paper? That's what matters.
Not really.
Well,
It's athletic instructional advisor.
oh no, we can do better than that.
Yeah, that's just a mouthful.
I'll work on that and get back with you and see if we can't come up with a better
Okay.
time. Hey, I know we want to get to, and folks want to hear your thoughts on John Franklin, who is competing. John Franklin III competing for the Auburn starting quarterback job. As a matter of fact, we started a picking contest today for folks to pick who the starting quarterback is going to be and when it's going to be. But John is a unique type character. Just talk about him and your relationship with him.
He was a guy that he wasn't your typical drop down, what we would call a drop down athlete, a 4.24 transfer. In that he didn't get kicked out of Florida State for a disciplinary issue. He wasn't academically ineligible. I mean, there were really no issues surrounding him leaving Florida State other than he was backing up, the starting quarterback and kind of didn't see where his role was going to fit in at Florida State, and so he left. But he's a great kid. I mean, he has a wonderful family. I could tell right off the bat when he came in that he, had been raised right. I mean, that he looked the part, he talked the part. I mean, he has a good head on his shoulders. He is very strong-minded. He has his own opinions. He isn't afraid to speak them. And I think that's okay. I mean, I liked that about him, that he kind of knew who he was, and he was finding himself and finding his way, and he tested that a little bit, and I appreciate that about him. He was funny. I mean, he would come in here and cut up with the guys, and he always made me smile, always made me laugh. He was a guy too he appeared, I think, and I hate that he's kind of getting the bad rap for being cocky and arrogant, but he was a guy that cared about other people. I mean, he would come in here, and if I was kind of not in a good mood, I mean, he would say, like, "Are you okay? What's wrong with you? What happened to you today? Or, you need a hug?" I mean, he was concerned about everyone else as well. His teammates liked him. He was always cutting up with his teammates. I even talked to his counselor at Florida State when he got here, and she loved him to death too. And everyone at Florida State had very nice things to say about him. So I think he's just that likable guy that no matter where he was and what he was doing, everybody kind of liked him. And I really am excited for him, and I hope that he wins this quarterback battle.
Well, it was obvious your concern for him as you showed for all the players there in the first season of Last Chance U, when you turned to the camera and talked about your concern for him getting the opportunity and to show Coach Lashley there in the just before the last ball game.
Yeah, I hated it for him because I know how important, especially at the quarterback position, when you're a transfer, you don't transfer to a junior college to sit the bench. He left Florida State because he didn't want to be the backup. He sure didn't come here to be the backup. And although I loved Wyatt and I was pulling for Wyatt as well, I hated it for John because I knew that his sole purpose in coming here was to play every down, and to contribute to this team and to win a championship and to get recruited. And when he came in and then all of a sudden he's battling for the job, not necessarily because he was even doing anything wrong. I don't think he was battling for the job because he wasn't good enough. He was battling for the job because Wyatt was just competing, and
he was behind, yeah.
Right, and he just got here, and Wyatt had been here, and there was just a whole lot of circumstances tying into why he was even competing for the starting position, and I hated that for him, and he tried so hard not to show it. I would see him on the sidelines when he wasn't playing, and he was constantly pumping Wyatt up. When Wyatt would come off the field, he was the first guy high-fiving Wyatt and, talking to him about what he was seeing on the field, and he was so supportive of Wyatt and just was really trying to be a team player and have a great attitude, but I could tell that it was just eating him up, that he wasn't out there. And, there were some moments in here, and there was one on the show where he's just kind of sitting in here, and I don't even know that you realize he's in my office because he's got his hood over his head and he's just not really saying anything. And he was so frustrated and I think worried that, he had made a wrong decision and he had just cost himself his entire future because he wasn't playing in the way that he felt like he, was going to play. And that's tough. That's a tough thing when you've already been at that level and and then you transfer down. I mean, that's tough enough as it is, but then to have that moment where you're not sure if you're going to get back there, I mean, that's a hard thing. And I really felt like he handled it the best way that he could, honestly.
Wow, that's some great insight on John. Hey, was it not great to get the news that Wyatt has decided he's going to walk on at State?
Yeah, I didn't know, and then I got a text message, somebody was telling me, and I almost didn't believe him. I was like, what? And I looked it up, and I was so excited that he got that opportunity, and he's excited, and I just, I think that again shows that if you're just patient and do, be yourself and follow your own heart, that, things will work out for you in the end. And I'm just really excited that he gets this opportunity too. Plus, it means we have 3 quarterbacks in the SEC. So
yeah, how about that? And now you've got another Florida State transfer coming in this year.
We do. DeAndre Johnson will be our quarterback this year, and I love him as well. I mean, I think he's going to do some exciting things on the field for us too. So, yeah.
All right, the filming gets started Monday. So we mentioned DeAndre. Do you guys know who like the main characters are going to be? Is it just sort of work its way out early on in the filming?
I don't know who the exact players will be. I think they do kind of go into it with a list. I mean, we do sit down and talk about it, and they kind of compile a list of some possibilities, and I think there's some set play. DeAndre will be one of them, I think, for sure. But the others, there's just kind of a list, and then I think the producers decide that. Sometimes they'll ask for my opinion, sometimes they won't, but I think they'll decide it once they get here, and they'll whittle that list down to about 4 or 5 players.
Yeah, some of them will just sort of they'll come out on film or on video. Obviously,
right, yeah.
Obviously, you, Coach Stevens, the staff. I mean, there's some familiar faces that we'll see. Got to ask you, I mean, because everyone wonders, man, is Coach Stevens that, is he tough to get along with? Because he's pretty outspoken.
He is outspoken. I mean, he is what you saw on camera.
That's good.
But he does his job well. I mean, he's passionate about what he does, and he's a competitor, and so am I. So, we butt heads sometimes, but we always figure out a way to make it work.
I understand. Having been around athletics for quite a while, having had a son that walked on, having knowing coaches and counselors and everything. Yeah, I understand completely. So, Brittany, before we let you go, where do you see yourself in a few years? What is what do you have in mind? Where would you like to wind up? So you may not have been, at least right now, on the sidelines with ESPN, but we've seen you on the sidelines, and you're obviously very involved there. But where would you like to see yourself in the future?
Yeah, well, I think that dream has kind of changed over the last 2 weeks. I just, in everything that's kind of happened from the show, I think my dreams have gotten a little bit bigger maybe than they were before. But, I don't know. I am kind of open to all the possibilities. Being a reporter for ESPN or working in college athletics in that way certainly would be something that I'm open to. Also maybe in a life coaching role with NFL rookies, or if the NCAA would ever get on board with hiring, player development type people that are actually player development and not coaches disguised as player development people. That would be something that I would love to do, is working with college football players in player development at that level. So I'm just kind of open and hoping that some opportunities come my way.
Well, there's no question in my mind you would be great at it. Brittany, we really appreciate you joining us here on The Drive this afternoon, and can't wait to see Season 2. We'll be keeping up with EMCC throughout the season.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, thank you. Brittney Wagner joining us.